Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I will talk to you about Z-index and stacking context and how Z-index works in different cases with stacking context. So what is Z-index? I will start from the beginning. So in CSS, each box has a position in 3 dimensions. So vertical position, horizontal, and Z-axis. On Z-axis, the boxes appear on top of each other, and we use Z-index to place an element on top of each other. You can say that it's very easy. Z-index with higher number will appear on the top, and Z-index with lower number it will appear on the bottom. But most of the time it will not work like this because there are different cases and we have to take into consideration all cases and to know in detail the stacking context and how Z-index behaves in cases like this. So let's start. So our first case is to place an element on top of each other without using Z-index. So I will show you how it behaves if the element has position but it doesn't have Z-index, so how it behaves in this case. I have created 4 divs for you: green, orange, gray, let me change it, gray and yellow, and I have linked CSS to my HTML file, and now I will show you how it behaves in this case. As you can see, I have got a main div, blue, it's just name of the div. I have got a main div, and then I have got a position relative on main div. Then I've got 4 child elements of this parent div: green, orange, gray, and yellow, and all of them have position absolute. Okay, so, and you see that how they appear on top of each other. Why do they appear like this? Let me show you. As you can see, we have got green, orange, gray, yellow. So what is the order in our HTML elements? The same thing will appear in our div elements. So if green coming first in our HTML file and orange coming second, orange will come on top of green, and gray comes third. Gray comes on top of these divs, and yellow comes last, so yellow will be on top of these 3 elements. Let's change the order in our HTML file and see how it behaves. Let's put it here, yellow and gray here. Save our code and refresh the page. Now you will see that gray appears on top of other elements. Why? Because gray comes last in our HTML code. So it takes into consideration the order which we have written in our HTML code. But please bear in mind that in order the divs to work like this without that index, the divs should have positions. It should not have position static. If it has position static, it means it's non-positioned. It should have position absolute, relative, and if we do not use Z-index, they will appear according to the order which we have written in our HTML code. Now let's continue with the case where I will explain you how Z-index works for these elements which have positions. So we have defined position for each of them, and now we want to use Z-index. So I will put here Z-index 5. No, let me put here Z-index 4, Z-index 3, Z-index 2, and yellow element will have Z-index 1. So how Z-index works, the higher number value will appear on top of other elements. So let's save and let's refresh our page. So what is the higher number value which we have defined in Z-index for these elements? So as you can see, our green box has the highest Z-index value. It is 4. So orange has value of 3, which is lower than 4. That's why it appears on back of green. And then we have z index 2 and z index 1 yellow box, which appears to be on the back of all other elements. Now let's change the value here. For example, let's put here 4 and let's put here 3 and save. And now you will see that the box element, which has the higher z index value 4, will appear on top of other elements. So this is just normal example how z index works in the same stacking context. So in our next example, in example 1 with stacking context, I will show you two main divs and child of these divs, the childs which are not siblings, they belong to different parents, and how it works. What happens if the elements belong to the same root stacking context. So what is stacking context anyways? A stacking context is an element that contains a set of layers. So what do I mean here? Let me show you in an example. I have created here two divs. So first is main div, as you can see here, and I have created one child element for this div, and the second div 2, I have created the second parent div, and its child element is child 3. And I have assigned styles to these elements, but please pay attention, the main divs, they have no z index value. Their positions are relative, and the child elements, child 1 and child 3, have position absolute, and they have z index value. Only child elements have z-index values. Parent elements do not have z-index values. And these child elements belong to different divs. Child 1 belongs to div 1 and child 3 belongs to div 2. They are not siblings. They belong to different parents. And in this case, as you can see, our green element has z-index value 6 and our yellow element has z-index value 7. 7 is higher than 6, that's why child 3 will appear on top of other elements. But what is the trick here? The trick here is that even they are not siblings, they belong to the same root stacking context. For example, let me change it to some other value. 6 and this one to 7 and save and refresh the page. Now you will see that even they are not siblings, z-index value will work for them. They will take it into consideration. So the child 1, the child of different div, will be on top of child of another div. Why this happens? This happens because their main divs, div 1 and div 2, they do not have any z-index value. And because they do not have any z-index values, these elements belong to the same stacking context. They do not belong to different stacking contexts. What do I mean by this? If I assign a z-index to these main divs, so these child values will first look at z-index of its parent element. Let me show you. Okay, now I will assign z-index, for example, 10 to main div, and I will assign z-index 11 to second div. I will refresh the page and I will show you how it works. So what's our main div z-index? Main div, this is our main div with z-index 10, and this is the child element green, which has z-index 7. So even this z-index is greater than this yellow element, it does not look at this child anymore. It does not look at the child element of another div anymore. It looks at the z-index of its main div element. It does not take into consideration z-index value which was in another child element, because this child element belongs only to div element, and div element, because we have assigned z index to this div element, it has created a different stacking context, and this child belongs to this parent element z index only. So please pay attention. Our second div has z index 11. What do we have for child of div 2? We have z index 6. So why second div appears on top of main div? Because of z index value, second div has z index value of 11, and main div, first div, has z index value 10. So which one is bigger, 11 or 10? Of course 11, that's why it appears on top of first div. Now let's change it. For example, let's change it to 11 and let's change it to 9, and I will show you. Now, please pay attention. In this case, our div element, first div element, z index is 11, which is higher than the z index which we have defined for div 2. So, main div comes on top of everything, and our main div child, let's check, green, has z index 7, and this div, because of main div z index is higher, that's why the child, both child and main div, appears on top of this div 2, both div 2 parent and div 2 element. Now let's change it. For example, let's change it to 8 and save and refresh. See, nothing happens. Why? See, our child elements have z index 7, and the second child element, yellow, have z index 8, but it does not work like this. They are not compared because of their z indexes. They are compared because of their main elements, because of the parent's z index value. So z index 8, this is child element, belongs to div 2. So what is z index of second div? This is 9, yes, but div 1 comes on top of it. Why? Because the highest value that z index have in this all this page is for main div, which is z index 11. I hope it's a little bit clear for you. If it's not clear, I will show you in another example. I just want to summarize this, that when we define child elements always look at their main elements z index. If their main elements do not have z index, let me delete it and show you. If their main elements do not have their z index, then they will be compared between each other, because their main divs do not create any stacking context. They have one root stacking context, and they are compared according to this stacking context. But whenever we define z index for main divs and for div 1 and div 2, then they will be compared according to their divs. Stacking context will be created, and they will be compared according to their main div z index value. Okay, so let me proceed with our last example. In this example, I have created 3 main divs, and then I have created child divs for the third div. So it means that we have 3 main divs and 3 child divs, but these child divs belong to div blue. So they are siblings and they belong to div blue. Okay, so I have styled them in our CSS file and I have positioned them, as you can see. Now I will assign z index value to each of them, so that to explain to you how stacking context works in this case. So let's assign z index 6, z index 4 to second div, Z index 3 to the third div. Now to the child divs, I will assign 7, 8, and 9. I will save and refresh our page and now see what happens. What happened here? Let's analyze. So our green element has Z index value 6. But why it is on top? Because we have assigned Z index 7, 8, 9 to pink, gray, and black elements, and they should be actually on top of this green element. So why it happened? It happened because these pink, gray, and black elements, they belong to different stacking context layer. This happens because the child elements, which are blue, pink, gray, they look at Z index value of their parent element. So what's their parent element? Let's check. Pink, gray, black, their child elements, and their parent element is blue. So what is Z index value in blue? So Z index value is 3. And in blue, but in yellow and green, they are 6 and 4. So which one is higher? So if we compare only main divs, we can see that between these main divs, green has the highest Z index value. So this is separate stacking context. But when we compare child elements, pink, gray, black, though they have higher Z index values, they belong to stacking context layer which has been assigned in blue elements. So here Z index value is 3. That's why they are coming under these elements. So let me show you in another example. So let's change it to, for example, 5. Not 5 to 7, 8. And let's refresh the page. Now see what happens. So this comes, all these child elements comes on top of other elements. This is because Z index value which has been assigned to these child elements compared to Z index value of their parent element. So the parent element has the highest value here. It's coming on top of yellow and green. And green is the second, so it comes under blue element. And yellow is lowest, that's why it comes under green element. So whenever you have child and parent elements, you have to be very, very careful because your child elements takes into consideration Z index value of its main elements. It's compared within each other. So pink, gray, and black compared within each other. They are not compared with Z indexes of other main div elements because they do not belong to those div elements. They belong only to this blue div element. So for example, if we assign here 10, 11, and for example 9, and save it and refresh our page, now you will see that the child elements changed. Pink has Z index 10, so gray has 11 Z index, which that's why it appears on top, and black has 9, which is under of these elements. But if we assign here, for example 11, and save it and refresh the page, now you will see that green element appears on top of other elements. This is because the main div Z indexes are compared with each other. They are the same stacking context, but these child elements belong to other stacking contexts and they're compared within each other, not with other divs. So here in green, we have Z index 11, but blue has Z index 8. That's why blue and its child elements should be under green element. Okay guys, thank you for watching. I hope now it's clear for you how Z-index and stacking context works. Please subscribe for more tech tutorial videos. Thank you for watching.